Hello and welcome to a podcast episode of Text Wired by Aman. This is a show where we discuss topics in textiles and fashion to educate consumers like you and me about our consumption. So, on that note, our topic for today is going to be school uniform. And what a better guest to have on the show who is a teacher, and his name is Dave. Welcome, Dave, to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm here again. So, yeah, it's good to be here. That's what I mean, right? It's good to be here, as always.
Yeah.
But yeah, uniforms. It is an interesting topic.
Yeah. So,
We've both been students. We went to the same school. We wore the same uniforms, even in university too, right?
yes, exactly,
So
exactly. So,
it's a topic that we both, well, what you call it? It's close to both of us. That's what I
yes.
want to say.
So before we get into the whole the school uniform and the business of it, let's just understand how was your experience with school uniforms? Like, did you like it, or what do you think about school uniforms back in the day?
Well, back in the day, when I was a kid, so when I was young, let's say up until class 7, class 8, I didn't really care. I
Yeah,
mean, we had more things to focus on, right? We were playing, we were jumping around.
yeah,
But as I grew up, I started, I wouldn't say hating uniforms, but I started to dislike them in a way that why do I have to wear the same thing over and over again, right?
right,
That was my
yeah,
opinion. And a lot of my friends thought the same way. But there are also other people who said, yo, it's good. I don't have to think about what I have to wear. Just put on the same thing and I can
yeah,
sleep even more.
and yeah, and
Sleep along.
that is
Yep.
going to be me. Like when I wake up, I'm glad that uniform wear a thing, because if it's not, I wouldn't know what to wear. And obviously, me, I was more focused on just going to school and just seeing my friends and just get on with the day. And uniform is something I didn't really care about, so I wouldn't. It didn't really matter whatever I wore. I just It was just at the start of the day, you just have to get ready and just go to school. And uniform is
Yep.
something that is just uh, it's just kind of reduce
It's
all the.
convenient in a way. Yeah.
Yeah, it just reduces the effort to dress up. Like it's
Yep.
not an obstacle, and it doesn't come in, like,
Definitely.
dressing up doesn't come in the way of going to school. So
Exactly.
that is perfect for me, except for sometimes where we just had to carry a sports uniform, which was a little bit annoying because you have to carry an extra bag. But otherwise,
Oh yeah, that is true.
I was
Yep.
happy.
When you had to carry two uniforms and then switch them, the whole process of carrying extra uniforms with you wherever you go, that can be a little bit annoying. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So
Yeah.
and also, like, some uniforms that I had, like, I think I had to change every year, which was annoying sometimes, because as we grow, the sizes change because we are maturing. And that kind of like made me wonder, like, me being in a textile industry, it always now I start to wonder, like, how was our uniform. So I did some research, and I found out, like,
Mhm.
some fabrics that were the most recommended for our school uniforms. And what I've come across is it has to be a blended. So it's either a polyester cotton blend or a polyester viscose blend, because and now it makes sense, because if we dive into the technicals of the school uniform, it is important to know if our uniform has the durability, and it has the functionality of what a student goes through in a school. So more important aspect is going to be if a student uh, will be able to go through all the activities that happen in school without have to worry about the uniform. Because if you are doing a certain activity and you can't perform because of uniform, that that is a no-go. It's going to be a whole issue. So maybe that
Yeah,
was
you are
one reason
absolutely you are
that you don't like
absolutely
your
right. No, you're
uniform.
right. You're right. I mean, think about it. What if when we were kids, we knew how to choose uniforms, right? I mean, we
Right.
had some pants that were super, super thick, and we were just sitting in class learning, and we were sweating already, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't
Yeah.
know any better. We
Yeah,
thought it
that
was
that
because of the fabric, but no, it's because of the fabric. We
yes,
didn't know there were
definitely.
better fabric around.
Yes, I can recall sometimes during the lunch break where we had to walk to our canteen and back. Uh,
Yeah.
just that 10-minute, or just that 5 to 10 minutes walk. to the canteen and back, it already made me all sweaty because of the lunch break, and it just made me more annoying to come back to the classroom after lunch break. So
Yeah,
I
and to think that all those troubles could be solved by choosing a better fabric.
yeah,
We
so
didn't know this.
yeah, so just out of curiosity, I just wanted to see what fabrics are good. So
Yeah,
so one of the listener, if you happen to be a parent or whatever, so I can just recommend it has to be a blend of polyester cotton, not 100% cotton, or not 100% like any natural fabric, because the problem with those is when you wash too many times, and of course school uniform has to be washed every day because you're being sweaty, you are doing a lot of activities, and you're going around, so your school uniform has to be washed every day. So if it is a natural fabric like cotton, it will wrinkle and it will shrink, and that will just defeat the whole purpose of a uniform because you can't wear it again. So the
yeah,
blend helps to maintain the durability and also the comfort. So that was
exactly. And to the listeners out there who are parents or who plan to be parents, this is an important thing. You have no idea how many times we thought we got fatter because the uniform shrunk, right?
yes.
We didn't get fatter, but it felt bad. We were concerned. So trust me, you do not want your kids to go through this. Some
Yeah.
fabrics shrink, so you better choose the correct ones for your kids.
Exactly. Sometimes
Yeah,
you don't know. I thought my clothes were shrinking. I don't know, like if I was getting fat. I don't know.
exactly. We've been through this, and I mean now we know, but back then it was quite a big deal.
Yeah,
I
imagine
remember.
we're just struggling with a uniform, not knowing what it is, and it can be really
Yeah,
annoying. Like you want to change it, but you can't because you don't know
right.
what's the other option.
Exactly. Okay, so one more time for these parents. So how do you know which kind of fabric will shrink and which one will not?
So if as long as it's a blend, you have nothing to worry
Hmm.
about. It has to have a polyester blend because that's going to help maintain the durability and also the functionality. Like it will not shrink, it will not wrinkle very often. So I think that has to be maintained because for a uniform, it has to be the whole idea of uniform is to the student has to look decent when you're wearing it. So you should not have all wrinkles everywhere, after an activity or like whatever. But
Yep.
so
Okay,
a
so
blend,
blend it is.
yeah, a blend should
Hmm.
be a no-brainer. Just to keep that in
Nice.
mind.
Good to know.
Yeah. So from a student, they've now that you are a teacher, what are your
Yeah.
thoughts on uniform? Like if you are a teacher, how do you view uniforms now? School uniform, actually.
Well, I still view school uniforms as something completely useless,
Already.
but unfortunately, yeah, really, really. I mean, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on whether you like uniforms or not,
Yeah.
there are many countries that still make uniform a mandatory thing for schools and universities, right?
Right.
So to me, uniform doesn't help or hinder education in any way.
Of course. Yes.
Yeah, so that's the way I say it. But I could also see school uniforms as a viable business, a
Right.
way for schools to earn more money. That's the way I see it. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't impact the kids. I don't want to wear uniform because I don't like wearing the same thing over and over again. But
Right.
I cannot deny that if I were to run a school, I might make uniforms a thing because my school could earn more. And if I make uniforms cool and the students like it, hey, it's better business, right? Better
Yeah. It's a
income,
more
new
business.
source.
Right. 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 So before we come into this whole business of school uniforms, what do you think is better now? Like you being a teacher, do you think it's better to have a uniform or a dress code? Uh,
So, okay,
like
in
if
my
you were a
opinion,
teacher, because we have grown up in a setting in an
hmm,
environment where all the students are wearing a uniform, and the
yeah,
teacher have uh, actually from with the school that we are from, the teachers could just wear anything, but the
yep,
students have to have the same uniform. So
yeah.
now that you are a teacher, do you think a uniform actually would you prefer having a uniform or a dress code? What do you think is much better now?
I think dress code is much better.
Dress code,
So,
right?
dress code would give you more freedom to at least select your own themes or go along with the theme of the school. You can express yourself in a different way.
Right.
But yeah, so the way I see it, dress codes usually, I mean, I would not say usually, but I would say they serve a better purpose. You
Right.
come to school to learn, right? So as a teacher, for example, all teachers are required to at least dress appropriately when they go to school, correct?
Yes.
You
Perfectly.
do not expect a teacher, an educator to go with beach shorts,
No, of course.
and teach science in
It's
class.
not serious and all
That's
at
not,
all.
yeah, that is not going to happen. No one will take you seriously. So while uniform can do that, uniform can make people treat you with respect. Dress codes can do the same. Just
Right.
that dress codes can give you more freedom.
Yeah, I think, but like in India or like where you're from in Thailand, I think that
Yeah,
having a dress code is still not a thing here. Like how in the West, the school uniforms are usually based more of a dress based on they are more based on dress codes rather than a single uniform. Like
yeah,
even now in India, the school uniforms are same. There's no much, it's not much difference. Everyone has to wear the same thing, where you're from, whether you are in a nursery or all the way till grade 10 or grade 12. It's the same uniform all the way. But in the
yeah,
Western culture, it's completely different. I think some of my ideas are also coming from series, the way how they portray high school. We have never seen a dress code. I mean, we have never seen a uniform. It's usually a dress code where the students are just required to dress appropriately, and that's it. It's and that also gives them the freedom to express like their personality, how they want to dress up. As long as they're appropriate, it makes complete sense.
yeah. And here's an interesting thing about the West, right? So if
Right.
you look at our countries like Thailand and India, for example,
Yeah.
so uniforms are basically something that we have to live with. We are forced to wear them, right? And that's
Right.
totally fine. And in Western societies, for example,
Yeah.
you don't have uniforms, you just have dress codes. But
Right.
there are also private institutions where uniforms are mandatory. And a
Yeah.
lot of people view those uniforms as something to be proud of. Something as a status symbol, for example. Like,
Mm.
yo, we are in this super expensive, super exclusive private institution, and our
Yeah.
uniforms show that.
Right.
So the whole attitude on uniforms is completely different.
Yeah, I think, yeah, back in the day when I used to view these, I used to see these kids from private schools. I remember they have these blazers that they have with the uniform. We didn't have blazers. We just had like a typical definition of uniform, which is the button down t-shirt with a trouser, with a full trouser, and
Yeah.
for the girls it used to be a pleated skirt. So that is our idea of uniform. But for private school, it's a different thing. For casuals, they have like a polo shirt with trousers, or some of them have a blazer. When they have
Yeah, with the full
uh,
logos on them. Yeah.
yeah, when they are celebrating a specific thing in a school, or they have uh, yeah, some commencement day, or a graduation. When you are graduating to the next class. So those events required the students to have a blazer, dress better. But it was the same for us, for you and me, back in our
Yeah,
school. Like no
definitely.
matter what it is, every day, no matter what the event is, we are dressed the same. So
Yeah.
that made me wonder about this private schools and this whole thing. So like I want to recall like how you mentioned this uniform is being a whole business in its own. If you were to run a school, obviously you would want to introduce uniform because it's going to help you make more money. Like it is.
Yeah. I mean, and this is inspired by our schools,
Yeah,
right?
it
I
is
mean,
it is your
in our
merchandise.
school, we have even the sports dress. How many pants have we bought from them again and again every time we fell playing basketball or football, right?
Yeah.
A few pairs a year at minimum. Some of them go through 5 or 6 a month. Like, yo, I had torn my pants again. I fell. We were kids. So it is a good model, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, this topic is kind of, it's quite reminiscing. I'm remembering a lot of the old days about the
Yeah.
uniform. Oh man.
But here's the
Ah,
thing though, with uniform, right? It's not just the shirt or the pants. Could be something as subtle as a badge, like, or an
right,
emblem or a logo.
right.
When we were in university, right, we had to wear university belt, correct?
Right.
We could that was uniform in the sense that we had a dress code. We had to wear white shirt, right, and black
Right.
pants.
Right.
You could buy them from anywhere, but the belts and the logo, the school, the university logo, we had to buy from them. So they
Right.
made money from that.
Yeah. I think that'll
And
be
if
more
you look,
of.
and
Can that be part of a dress code, which is having a belt and a badge?
I mean, I would say it would be part of a uniform in the sense that every student will be basically wearing the same belt and the same badge, right?
Right. And also you can
So
just
it is part of the uniform.
yeah, you can just have yeah, your the belt with the school logo. It's I think this should be enough branding for, I mean, for a college. No, sorry, not a college, for a school uniform. Right.
Could be possible. Yeah,
Right. So on that topic, I was also doing some research on, if somebody was to start a business of a school
yeah,
uniform, like, okay, now we are not students anymore. Now I'm in the textile industry, you are a teacher, and obviously you would want to open your own tutoring center where you would
yep,
also be like a subset of a school, where it's the the fundamentals might be different, but the principle is the same, which is to teach, but it will be on your personal setting. So you also might want to introduce a uniform or a dress code, but you would want to make sure that your branding is intact to whatever the students are wearing, because
yep,
that's your marketing.
yep. True.
So yeah, so
So
on, yes, please go
yeah,
on.
no, please continue. Oh, okay.
Mhm.
So if I were to run a tutoring school, for example, I would prefer to have uniforms, but so not necessarily for my students, right? But for
Right.
teachers, because I would make sure that the teachers are at least up to a very high standard, that they can do their jobs really well, and
Right.
they are good at what they teach, actually know the materials, right? So by
Right.
making them wear shirts that have our institute's logo on the back, on the front, it would be like an advertising move on its own as well.
Right.
And
Right.
if those teachers are proud of it, sure. And I would also give out jackets or sweaters or any other thing with our school logo, with our institute's logo, to students as gifts, right?
Right. Right. Right.
And that in turn would create a culture in its own if it kicks off. And then I could have a side business selling this merch.
Uh, oh, oh, you. I
It's a
think. I think you are already prepared. You are on the way to your tutoring center.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the only one who plans to do this. This has been done. It is currently being done by many institutes, and that's how people choose different institutes, right? It's how
Right.
institutes differentiate themselves. So they do
Right.
have this kind of uniforms as well, just
Yeah.
in a more casual way. And of course, which comes to choosing the right fabric,
Right.
because in this education sector, or at least within the tutoring companies, they do offer optional. Many places do offer optional uniforms, right? But
Right.
they use really good fabric that
Yeah.
encourage other teachers, other tutors to wear them.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know the actual materials, and that would be. I think it could be blend because I didn't feel hot
Yeah. I'm
when I
sure
was
it'll
wearing
still be
them.
blend. Yeah. since
And
since you're in
it
the
didn't
business.
wrinkle. It didn't wrinkle easily. It looks nice whenever I wear them. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. So I was also like, on that note, I was also thinking, like, if me being in this textile industry now, if I were to start my own business that involves in the production of school uniform, what would that look like? And also for the listeners, like, if anyone is interested in this industry. So I did some research, and I found, that uh, opening a business or a manufacturing that makes these school uniform, it is actually a very good business model, because unlike other clothing brands, there is not much experimentation with the design. It's very repetitive. So the production process becomes very simple in that sense, because any individual can just initiate a business from his or her own location. The school uniform manufacturing opportunity attracts very small capital investments towards machinery and equipment, because uh, like I said, it's very repetitive. So you don't need a lot of machinery and equipment that do a lot of different things, because you are not trying to add more value to just say like a button down t-shirt. You're not trying to do more with it. You are, because you're not allowed to do more with it. That is unacceptable. So just because of these ground rules, you get it. It is a very profitable venture to start a manufacturing of school uniform. Uh,
Yeah, it is, but you have to be careful about how you market them, right? So I cannot speak
right,
about India, but I can tell you about Thailand. If you
right,
look at government schools, government
right.
institutes, so almost all of them have the same uniform: white
Yep.
shirt,
Yeah.
bluish navy, bluish pants, short
Yeah.
pants, right? That's
Right.
it.
Yeah, I
But
think
here's
that
the
is the
thing.
rule, right? In Thailand, where all the
Yeah,
students are supposed to dress in a white t-shirt, white shirt, sorry.
yeah, yep. But here's the thing. Even amongst these white shirts,
Yeah.
there are already three major established brands.
Okay.
So if you want to go into this market, you're going to have to compete with these three. And that could be very difficult
Right.
because when people buy these uniforms, they just know which brands to go to, right?
Yeah.
And in many cases, the schools would also kind of recommend you to get from these specific brands. I
Yeah.
mean, sure, you could buy off brand and get away with it, but it will not, I don't think it would be that easy
Yeah.
because
I think yeah, like
you're going
before
to have
this
to battle
podcast.
a huge brand awareness. That's the thing,
Yeah.
right? It's the
Yeah.
same thing as you're trying to come up with a new smartphone. You already have Android and you have Apple, right? iOS versus Android. If you create a new OS, you're going to have to market them, right? You're going to have to do so many things that require so much capital just to bring awareness. So if you
Yeah.
want to go into this market in Thailand, at least the school uniform, and you want to tap into this government sector, you have to come up with a plan that can introduce your clothing
Right.
to other schools such that the students would want to buy your product. But
Yeah.
it could be easier if you change your target and approach private institutes, private schools instead. Could be easier
Right.
because
Right.
private schools have their own uniforms, right?
Yeah.
So you don't have to compete with any big brand names. All
Yeah.
you have to do is convince that school that, hey, I can create a uniform for you at a much cheaper price and or better quality than what you are currently doing. And if that works out, you're in for a profitable business because
Yeah, I think
uniforms are here to stay. These
that's a very
countries.
good, that's a very good segment, because like how you have the public schools, like you mentioned, the public schools are usually like government regulated, and a lot of them. So if a government sets a rule that all students are supposed to wear a white shirt, so obviously it's going to partner with few brands that can maintain the quality, that can maintain the production, and that can reliably produce all the uniform for these schools. But you
Yep,
can have a niche when you're partnering with private schools, because private schools
exactly.
will want to do a lot more branding. They have like another type, they want to differentiate as much as possible. And because some private schools have a polo shirt, or some even have blazers, like we spoke earlier. So
Yeah,
these large scale manufacturers, that have tied up with governments and stuff, they can't do that. So this is their unique, this is the uniqueness, because they can cater to such private institutions. And similarly, they can also tie up with other private institutions, because at the end of the day, they demand, it's all about switching and switching a little bit of the production, but it's
yeah,
still going to be uniform. Just it's a little
yeah,
bit different on the branding and the color and stuff. So I think in like how you mentioned in Thailand, the schools are required to purchase the school uniform from a specific brand. And therefore, there are other large manufacturers, because if it is at the end of the day, it's just a white shirt.
yeah,
And
exactly. I mean, I wouldn't say forced to buy, but it's like tacitly recommended. Like
they would
they'll kind
lean
of
you
pressure
to
you.
they would
Yeah,
lean
they
you
will let
to
you towards certain brand, right? I mean,
yeah.
sure, technically you can get other brands, but they'll be like,
It's
really?
a peer pressure, because if
Yeah,
a
peer
lot of
pressure.
the
Exactly. It is
if a
peer
lot of your
pressure.
classmates and friends are trying to buy that brand, and you'll
Yep.
also be like, oh, my friend has that, why, let's
Exactly.
just do
Exactly.
the same
And
thing.
that is quite difficult to compete with.
It's hard to get away with it. So
Yeah.
somehow school just brainwashes you into doing it. And oh
Yep.
wow. And
Yep.
also because at the end of the day, it's just a white shirt. And
It's just a
me being from a textile industry, what I've learned is, the simpler the design, the easier it is to expand, and the easier it is to mass produce. So large
yeah.
manufacturers like China, like, of course, everyone is aware the amount at which China produces for the whole economy. So if it is just a white shirt, they can do so much. They can just overproduce and dump it in Thailand, but that is being
Exactly.
prevented because the government is supporting few businesses, and then because of this partnering, it's giving them an edge, and they're not being dumped by all these Chinese manufacturers. So I think that is a one that is a huge point to consider, because if someone is trying to get into this business, they have to understand what support they have in the industry, being
Yeah.
being a local. So I think that's a very good point for a school uniform manufacturer. Oh man.
Yeah. Like I said, it is a viable business. You just have to come
Yeah,
up with your own unique way to tap into it.
yeah, it's a very
It'll be
profitable
easy. I
venture.
mean, if it's easy, everyone would have done it, right? Just
Yeah,
like everything else.
right. And I think now,
Like,
given the current pandemic situation, the schools are shut,
yeah,
and for the foreseeable future, we don't know when the schools are going to reopen, and it's going to be back to normal. So I think at this moment, what I've researched is the manufacturing is quite low. The manufacturing and the demand for such school uniform is kind of on the low, because the students are not going to the school so much, and there's not much wear and tear to the old uniform. So they're more probably going to be used again, and so the demand is on the low
definitely.
till the school happens to
Yeah. And
reopen.
at least until the situation gets better, until
Yeah.
students can go back to schools again. But
Yeah.
until such time, so for the foreseeable future, at least
Yeah.
for like at least for half a year, well, yeah,
Yeah.
uniform production and sale will decline.
Right. And
Like no one.
like from your perspective, that you being a
Hmm.
teacher, do you think how long the trend of uniform is going to last, and how soon will it like convert to more of a dress code based rather than a uniform?
Okay, so this is
Like,
a tricky question, yeah, but I get it. So,
yeah,
in my opinion, from what I've seen,
because
uniforms,
you personally hate uniform yourself, like you mentioned now, and
yeah,
you would
no, I,
and
I
you
do,
would
but
not
but
want
now I'm
it.
trying to be objective. Yeah, no, but now I'm trying to be objective here
Right,
because
right,
I've been so when I was in Thailand, right? So as a student, both in school and in university, I had to wear uniforms. And
right,
then when I studied abroad in Germany, as a
right,
student, well, I did not have to wear uniform anymore. And I've seen other students from kindergarten to high school to university to PhD, whatever they are, right? Without uniforms.
right.
So here's the thing. I think that uniforms will eventually disappear. But then again, currently uniforms is just a reflection of your culture, right? So
Right.
countries like Thailand, India, Japan, China, to name a few. So
Right.
these countries, they still value authority, right? That okay, you listen to what adults have been talking to you, have been telling you, right? There's some kind of order, some kind of structure that you're
Yeah,
supposed to follow.
fair point. Yeah.
Not as liberal as the West, for example. And in
Right.
those countries, uniforms are just one way to show that yes, I am in this current level of society in that sense.
Right.
But the more students are not just students, people in general, the more they're exposed to liberal ideas, which I personally agree with and I like them,
Right.
the more they see uniforms as pointless things. But to completely eradicate uniform will require a whole cultural shift, and those things don't come in a few years. Those things take time.
Right.
So even though, in my opinion, eventually everyone will see how pointless uniforms are, at least school uniforms,
Right.
how they don't serve any advantage in terms of learning.
Right.
It will take quite a long time before we get to that point. So if you want to start a business making uniforms, go for it. You still have time, at least a few generations time.
Yeah, because I like you mentioned, because this whole thing is a cultural shift. Like how people, the countries in the East, like even in India, like how everyone views school as a place where everyone is dressed in a uniform and the teachers is teaching. So that perspective of what a school looks like is going to take a while for that to change. Right now, we
Yeah,
are seeing a lot of influence from the West, where some private schools do allow like allow the students to dress casually on some occasions, but not completely. But whereas
yeah,
the government schools, it is going to be a while where even they changed. But this is not the case in the West. Whether it's a public school or a private school, the option is it's open to all. But in the West,
exactly.
what I've noticed is it's the private school that are emphasizing more on uniforms, where everyone is dressed the same. But on the public school, that happened to be uh, like they are not more emphasized on uniforms.
Yeah,
But
and
the private
one
schools
can
would
think of
want
it.
to
Yeah,
want to have their
of course,
students look the same.
it's to differentiate, right? We could
Yes,
think of it that they
it's a
chose uniforms
contrast,
as a
right?
differentiation. I mean, you want to separate yourself from other people. You want to market yourself, right? So for them, uniforms serve that purpose,
Yeah.
right?
So
It's a different
it's a very
purpose.
thin line
Yeah,
where
it's a
everyone in
different
the
purpose.
society is dressing casual. So to be a private school, you would want to
Yeah,
have a strict uniform code where all of your
exactly.
students are dressed in a certain way because it shows prestige. And
Yeah,
school uniform are high end, good quality, good fabric. They
yep,
look nice, they fit perfect, and that's the way of to differentiate. But
yeah, and
in in the East, uh, like in India, China, around here, we we still have the old thinking. Like schools
yeah.
have to have uh, the same uniform, and it's the private schools that are more chill with the
I mean,
uniform.
like I said, it's a reflection of culture, right? Where you go to school, sure, for education, but the subtext is that you go to school to learn how to be disciplined, to be a
Right,
functioning member of society, to fulfill your roles, right? So
right,
in that sense, uniform serves that role.
right.
Yeah, it
Wow.
shows that you are disciplined enough to be at this current stage of
Right.
your evolution in life, basically.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
like I said,
I mean,
eventually, I mean, even people who attend private schools with uniforms, they might not like the uniforms themselves. So if in the future, I mean, this will eventually happen. It has to, because
right.
current board members, I mean, no matter how old or how young they are, one day they'll have to, retire and have the next generation take over, right?
Yeah,
And when the next generation takes over, their mindsets might be different.
yeah. They'll be more
They'll
liberal
see
with these
exactly,
like strict rules.
exactly. And eventually they might find a different way to differentiate themselves that doesn't require uniforms,
Right,
right?
right. So
So
there's still
if
time
that
for
happens,
any changes in trend, like from
yeah, oh, but
the
that's a lot of time.
that's a lot of time,
Yeah.
right? So
So like I
because
said, even though,
yeah,
yeah,
because
no, like I
such
said, so even though
trends.
I view yeah,
Go on,
sorry.
sorry.
All right. So just to summarize, yeah. So even though I view uniforms as something that will eventually be a niche, or it will eventually, well, not be mainstream anymore, it will take a lot of time, at least like a couple of generations in the future.
Right.
And usually that most businesses don't last that long anyway. So go
Yeah,
for it, make it.
a lot of them would be graduated by then.
Yeah, exactly. Just go
Uh-huh.
for it.
Yeah,
Find your way into the market and see what you can do.
yeah. So I think like this whole business of starting your own clothing, school uniform manufacturing is actually a very good business. But yeah, in the short while, where uniforms are like, nothing's going to change for the foreseeable future, because not
Exactly.
it like as we discussed, it requires a whole change in the culture, as a cultural shift to actually have the uniforms changed and the rules of a
Yep.
school changed. But
Yeah.
Until then, I think this business model is perfectly fine, and because of the repetitiveness, it does not even require much capital. It's just how much you can produce and how you can manage to market your production. That's
Yep.
that. Uh,
Definitely.
so on that note, that will be the end of today's conversation. Thank you, Dave, for coming to the podcast. I think your insights were great.
Yeah. No worries now. So how will I get paid?
We'll talk about that.
I'm just joking. I'm joking.
Yeah, of course, of
Pulling
course.
your leg. Right. Yeah. Good to be
Uh,
here, man. Thanks for having me.
yeah, thank you. I look forward for another episode where
I mean, I
we
am
could see.
sure. Yeah. Next time.
Yeah, I mean, I love to do. I would love to have you on for more episodes.